Hello and welcome to Car Dealer Live. I'm James Baggett, I'm the founder of Car Dealer magazine, and today on the show we're talking to Cinch. It's a new direct-to-consumer used car website, and joining me from the firm is their retail director, Jason Cranswick. Jason, good morning.
Morning, James. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you very much. Nice to see you. So, Jason, I'll do a little bit of an introduction for yourself, for people who don't know you. So, you were formerly commercial director at Jardine. You've worked for car manufacturers including Audi and Seat, and a variety of head office roles. You've got some fantastic dealer experience there. And a little bit about Cinch for those people who've been living under a rock for the last week or so and have missed the headlines. Cinch is a business owned by BCA, which opens its virtual doors last week with more than 4,100 cars on sale. It's offering customers used cars up to 7 years old and can deliver them directly to customers' homes at no extra cost. Cinch follows Cazoo in this new sector, offering used cars direct to buyers via an online platform with that home delivery service. And they're soon going to have more competition from Carzam, which is going to be launching soon, another online sales site backed by big motoring world's Peter Waddell. So Jason, a little introduction there, but I'm sure you'll be able to give us far more insight. Perhaps you can give those watching a little bit of detail on exactly what Cinch is.
Okay, well, Cinch is, as you've described, an online platform. It was built absolutely with dealers in mind. If we wind the clock back over the last sort of 12 months, a number of BCA partners, a lot of big dealer partners have been saying, look, how can you help us accelerate our e-commerce capability? And I think it's fair to say, if you look across the whole stable of BCA products, we like to build things that are good for dealers, that help dealers build a long-term stable business. So Cinch opened its doors, as you say, a couple of weeks ago with a direct-to-consumer proposition. Cinch has been live now for probably 18 months or so, really, as a classified platform. And it was always brought about to sort of put some healthy competition into the classified marketplace. Again, a reaction to dealer comments saying, look, how do we make sure that we've got choice and options when it comes to classified marketing? The big difference, I think, with our model as well, and you've mentioned a few competitors that are in the space there, is that this is about giving a platform for dealers to generate revenue. So dealers sell their stock through Cinch. Cinch is the contracting party with the consumer. There's a back-to-back transaction with the dealer there, but the dealer generates revenue, which I think and we think is really, really important. In a world where dealer margins and dealer volumes are always going to be challenged in one way or another, to actually have a solution where dealers can use it to generate revenue in e-commerce in an out-of-the-box solution, we think is a really good thing for them.
So Jason, let's just touch on that in a little bit more detail there. So what Cinch is doing at the moment is offering dealers the opportunity for those that don't have an e-commerce platform, the opportunity to sell their cars via your website and solution direct to consumers. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And we have a growing number of dealers that are coming on board. We launched with a number of large-scale partners who had looked at it exactly in this way to say, look, how do we fast-track e-commerce? E-commerce, as you well know, and I certainly know from my experience, is very hard to do, can be incredibly expensive. You need a very high level of expertise and resource to do it. So what we've offered is an out-of-the-box solution for e-commerce. The dealer can sell their car via the platform. We handle everything as Cinch with the consumer. And again, that's really, really important. Selling anything online, whether it's a car or a book, comes with quite a long tail of responsibilities to the consumer. So that's the place that Cinch then step in and say, right, well, we will be the contracting party with the consumer. The consumer wants to buy into a brand they recognize. So, when they see something on the TV, they want to know that's the party they're dealing with. They don't want to be passed on to someone who knows someone. They want that single entity to contract with. They want that. Regulators want that. That's really important. And the dealer can then sell their car through our platform and generate revenue. The dealer's completely in control of their retail pricing. The dealer's in control of their stock mix. And what we've done is created a marketplace, to call it that, which has a very strong national brand with a very heavyweight media campaign to promote that. But the dealer can use us as a plug and play solution for e-commerce, whether that's for the short term to get them from nothing today to something somewhere down the line. A lot of the dealer partners we talk to are building out e-commerce solutions, but they just haven't necessarily got them quickly enough because of everything else they've been dealing with. So what we feel we can offer is either a stepping stone from nothing to something, and that's entirely fine, or we can offer them another channel in e-commerce. And I think most people will recognize that maybe one channel is never enough when it comes to e-commerce. So we offer them choice.
Jason, I mean, I think that's the fantastic idea. What's probably taken the trade by surprise, though, and especially the dealers we've been talking to, is the fact that BCA are offering their own cars or cars that they own direct to consumers via this platform. And there are some people that say, they've quoted gamekeeper turned poacher, people out there that are not particularly happy about that. What would you say to those dealers?
I think it's an interesting one, that gamekeeper turned poacher. If I put that into a personal point of view, as you well know, I've spent time in OEM, I've spent time in dealer, I've spent time, in the supplier space now. So I suppose I'm the nearest thing to that gamekeeper turned poacher, from a personal point of view. And I don't think it's that at all. I think for us to build a credible brand, for us to create a true competitor that the dealers can then use to give them choice, then someone's got to get it going. We've got to seed it, and that is entirely our position with this one. Is we couldn't go to market and say to dealers, look, we've got this great idea, but you've got to make it work. You've got to take all the risk. We said, no, we'll create a platform. It's created with the dealer firmly in mind. It's created off the back of feedback that dealers were giving us to build this, to give them a fighting chance of being competitive online. We've had to seed it, and that's, you'd expect us to do that. But what we want to do, and we're seeing it already, is the balance of stock is tipping much more towards now dealer stocks and away from our stock. But we couldn't have created something if we weren't prepared to put our name to it. And you've mentioned numbers. We've got over 4,000 cars live today. Well, that's how you create a consumer brand today. You have to go with scale, and the scale bit is the bit that we think we are bringing to the dealer's advantage, is something that has scale that then our dealer partners can really benefit from. And as I say, it's a plug and play solution. It's all success based. There's no subscription. So a dealer comes online, they choose to sell this product through Cinch, and we only take a commission when the vehicle is sold. So there's no recurring subscription in a world where, a lot of people are wanting to pivot their supplier base or their customers to a subscription so that they get their money regardless of outcome. We're completely opposite. We're saying you only pay us if you sell through us.
Jason, let's focus a little bit on where those cars are coming from that Cinch is selling themselves. So can you explain to us where that stock is coming from?
Yeah, well, what I can tell you is we're not handpicking it out of the auction hall. And that's something that people are saying is, hey, hang on a minute, are you taking away stock that would have normally had a fair run at? No, we're not taking this stock out of the auction hall. We don't have buyers stood there on the rostrum. There are no rostrums anymore, I guess. But, these are, there are many, many supplies of cars coming into the marketplace. As you know, we have a very broad church when it comes to supplier base for remarketing and for wholesale. But I can tell you these cars aren't coming out of the auction hall. We're not taking away the lifeblood from our dealers. And as you know, indeed, the online auctions that are taking place for wholesale are going from strength to strength at the minute. So lots of different lines of supply. The model mix is geared towards segment 2. We're not taking in sort of under 1 year old. The mix that we have, and everybody there can see it, is not cannibalizing dealer forecourt stock. And indeed, the conversations I'm having, throughout the industry now with dealers around the platform, they're looking at this as very much a complementary stock mix, very different to what they perhaps have on a main dealer forecourt, and something that they can use either to open up a new channel there that they're not able to play in through the main dealer business, or another way of gaining a margin from cars that would normally be leaked out of the dealer world. So, and as I say, we've had to get this thing going, but our plan is to continue to build out the dealer stock, and that's happening as we speak.
So does that mean that your Cinch is going to be in this for the long run themselves? I mean, or are you going to be scaling back the cars that you're selling direct to consumers?
And we want to scale back the cars that we're selling, and say that whole concept of seeding is really, really important. We've built something here that we think will scale with dealer partners. The dealer partners that we're talking to are very positive about it. I'm personally talking to lots and lots of industry leaders, a lot of the AM top 20, top 30 I've spoken to in person over the last couple of months. Likewise, we've got a growing number of independents. When you look at our customer base, in the wider context, we serve as BCA, we serve dealer partners, franchise dealer partners, independents, small and large. We serve OEMs, rental and leasing companies. So at its widest context, and I can't sort of and wouldn't want to take away there, we have a very broad church of customers to look at. Have a look at it in the Cinch instance. We want to build out something here that our partners can use to scale in e-commerce. So we are in it for the long term. You can't, much as everybody wants to create something that just has rapid value overnight, that's not always possible. We want to build something here that is another value-added service from the BCA stable. But if I very firmly put my Cinch hat on, I've joined this business to build something here which is meaningful and material for the long term in our industry. Our industry is changing. I think the automotive industry has seen more change in the last 12 months than I can recognize in the last 30 years that I've been in the industry. But I think what we're giving here is something that dealers can really use to fast track their going digital initiatives, as I always called them. And as I say, that's hard to do, but I think a business partnering approach with someone like us is a really good solution for everybody involved.
Are you surprised at the sort of discussions that this created in dealer circles? I mean, it certainly ruffled a few feathers, let's put it that way.
Yeah, let's look at it in context. As a business, we've been talking to the industry about this for some time. In fact, this business came off the back of, our partners coming to us saying, can you help us build something to fast track and be successful in e-commerce? So I think, am I surprised that there's chatter? No, I'm not. As I said before, I've personally spoken with most of the senior leadership teams within the AM top 20. I speak personally with a lot of independent dealers, large and small. And I've been talking to them for the 2 months that I've been involved in the business. And to be fair, I think Cinch have been, very, very well placed to talk to dealers over a number of months about what's been going on here. So I think the thing that surprises me is that there's a very small number of dealers that seem to have seen this as not a good thing. I can only talk for the conversations I've had, and I'm sure a lot of the people listening to the podcast today will recognize, I've spoken to them about the opportunity. I think the big dealer groups, to be fair, are looking and saying, okay, do we need this? And then when they actually spend time to digest it, and it usually takes a good 45 minutes or an hour to walk it through and say, okay, here's the different use cases for it. You could use this tactically. You can use this strategically. You can use it for a long-term platform within an omni-channel structure, or actually you can use this to get you from very little e-commerce today, which most dealers are, to something much, much more credible overnight, rapidly. Nobody else is offering a turnkey solution, pay-as-you-go solution for e-commerce without subscription and logistics in a box. And by that, if you think, where else can you buy retail ready stock that you could sell to a consumer, within a day of buying the car, the vehicle can be listed in an online marketplace and can be delivered within 72 hours to a consumer anywhere in the UK. And the interesting thing is, and the way I always describe it, the only action the dealer needs to take is when they press the button to buy the car and when they press the button when we've sold it for them. That's it. Everything else there is managed by Cinch end to end. And say the contract with the consumer sits with Cinch, and that's a double-edged sword. And again, some dealers say, hey, I want to have contact with this customer for the long term. I think actually when you look at the complexity of selling any product in an e-commerce situation, then actually it's not a bad payoff to have us contracting with the consumer and you as the dealer generating your revenue in your sale prior to the doorstep handover to consumer. So it's actually, it takes some time to think through it. It's not traditional. It's not our analog, success model that's always been there. In digital, it's a different set of rules that prevail, but it's a set of rules that dealers can use to generate revenue and have a long-term sustainable future.
So Jason, a couple of questions on that front.
Yeah.
So firstly, are you saying that a dealer can buy a car from one of the BCA auctions, decide to list it on Cinch,
yes,
and they would never see that car? It would
absolutely.
go through you.
Yeah, the retail ready stock that we launched, and again, I think you've covered that in a previous article. So a couple of weeks ago, BCA launched retail ready. Again, that was completely in response to feedback from dealers saying, how can we speed up the time between purchasing a car and getting it ready for sale? I think most main dealers will empathise that our workshops are completely flat out with retail work. How do you then prioritise your internal work? So to have a pool of stock that a dealer can go onto the Bid Now, Buy Now platform that they're all familiar with to buy, it's already conditioned up to a retail standard, coming with really high quality assurance that can then be literally listed at the press of a button in an online marketplace of Cinch. And from that point forward, we take control of everything with the consumer. And, we were seeing this, we launched on the 7th of October and that was sort of towards the end of, week one. And by very early week two, we had consumers in their product that had been sold, that had been fulfilled on behalf of the dealer. So, it is a much, much shorter period from cash out to cash back in, which I guess in any dealer world has got to be a good thing. So again, I come back to that point as to why maybe this has attracted some attention. Let's call it attention rather than criticism. I think actually what we've done is we've suddenly disturbed the status quo. And I make no apology for that, because I think to be successful in any new business venture, you've got to find your niche. Our view is we will exploit that niche with our dealer partners.
So let me ask you this question. Who are your rivals? Is it the likes of Auto Trader and eBay Motors Group, or is it the likes of Kazoo and the forthcoming Kazam?
I'm not going to pinpoint a rival, because I think there's many. I think there's lots of people looking at this sector. There's some new entrants that are coming in and are exploiting a single point. They've seen where dealers don't have an e-commerce solution. They've gone like that as a laser. There's others that are involved in the broader value chain with dealers. So I think we've got lots of different competitors, and there'll be competitors we don't even know of yet. I think that's the given with all of this. Over the last 2 or 3 years, there's been lots of new entrants come in, and that's something that established dealers have had to find strategies to compete with. I come back to our earlier point. This has been built with the dealer in mind. So hopefully the solution we've got is one that can help combat, whether it's cost of acquisition, whether it's cost of fulfillment, whether it's the ability to get your hands on product to generate revenue. I think we've got solutions there for everybody. So lots of different competitors, but the landscape will only get more competitive. It will move faster than we've ever seen before. But our proposal is one that helps dealers stay relevant.
And can you give me an idea of costs? I mean, what's this? If a dealer, a small dealer down the road wants to get set up and start advertising their stock with Cinch, what's it going to cost them to sell their cars on the platform?
It's hundreds, not thousands of pounds. The whole premise behind this is a revenue share. There's a standardized fee model. We charge £600 for a dealer to sell a car on Cinch, and that will be fulfilled anywhere in the UK within 72 hours. So I think when you look at it in that perspective, to have that fixed cost, to know that you don't have any any variables, the dealer doesn't have any manpower costs, the dealer doesn't have any logistics costs for any product that's sold down this line. So I think actually it's a very fair return for something that, we've spent a huge amount of money, creating the platform in the first place. It's designed to generate, volume of sales, and we're really pleased with what we've seen so far. But it's hundreds, not thousands of pounds for the dealer to use it.
And that includes collection from their showroom and delivery to the customer and all of that advertising in between. Yeah.
So in the early phase that we've just started with, all of the stock is virtual stock. So we launch with stocks that are all held on a BCA tarmac at this point in time. So the dealer stock is, as you say, is virtual stock that we're holding on their behalf and fulfilling. So if you think about it, it's almost think of it like an Amazon warehouse. Dealers have bought stock, they put it in our warehouse, ready to be sold, ready to be fulfilled out to the consumer. We're going to work on further phases as well, and the feedback we've had from dealers has been really encouraging, where they want to see how we can ingest other stock lines that they have. And certainly a number of dealers are saying, okay, so I can use this as another channel for stock that I already own. Absolutely, you can. The mechanics of that, as you can imagine, are quite challenging. How do you ingest stock from different locations? But that's what we're building out with our dealers now, and it's very much a partnership approach. I don't think there's a one size fits all, and some of our dealer partners have some particular requirements for how they want to sell cars. That's fine. We can work with them, I think the bit you've got to remember is it is very much a turnkey, pay-as-you-go solution. There's no capex for the dealer. There's no recurring cost without success. And ultimately, we're offering, e-commerce and logistics in a box.
Just a couple more questions, if I may. I mean, firstly, just about the online future of car sales. I mean, I'm chatting to lots of different people, and the opinions are stark in their contrast. I've got some dealers investing hugely in their online solutions. Others saying that actually that's not going to be the future. Customers are always going to want to visit a dealer. I'm interested to know what your point of view would be on that.
Do you know what, James? I concur with a number of your statements there. We've done some research that said, probably 2/3 of consumers still want to go to a physical location to buy a vehicle. And that's great news, because our dealers across the country have invested heavily in the real estate. That's the cost of franchising in most franchising. I should know that. I was busy franchising for Seat and Audi for a number of years. But we've gone over a tipping point as well, where more than 20% of consumers, when asked, would buy a car end-to-end online. Well, if you go back only a year ago, I bet that was single digit. It wouldn't have been 20%. So I think there's now a material number of consumers that will move online. Doing online is really, really hard. I should know. I've deployed a number of online solutions for my previous businesses. And what we've often found is the complexity of joining up all the different parts of the IT structure, all of the specialist skills that you need to be able to manage inventory and consumers, and how you blend offline and online together is really, really hard to do. I think the fact remains, it's going to happen. It's happened already. It's not a case of trying to put, the jack in the box back in the box. The jack in the box is already out. E-commerce is already happening. As you say, larger scale operators are able to make the capital expenditure that's needed to have their own online platforms. But that only makes up a very, very small proportion of the industry. The industry, by and large, needs support services. So I think e-commerce is going to happen. It's going to take a growing part of industry sales. But if you imagine a day where 100,000 cars are sold online by an operator, although that sounds an enormous number, what is it? 1% of total market if you add new car and used car together, and so these really big numbers end up only representing a very, very small channel in the overall industry. So I think there's a long-term future for retailers as we know and love them. And, I love them very much. I've been, in the industry 30 years and always been, very passionate about the dealer business. But e-commerce is growing at a phenomenal rate. So you've got to be able to do both. And doing both is hard, which is where I think Cinch comes in to offer a fantastic support service to dealer partners.
Jason, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you ever so much for your time and coming on to Car Dealer Live to explain Cinch to our viewers. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Great stuff. So thanks very much to Jason there. If you want more Car Dealer Lives like this one, log on to cardealermagazine.co.uk and click on the Live tab at the top of the page. If you'd like to get involved in future Car Dealer Lives, send me an email. It's james@blackbullmedia.co.uk or on Twitter @CarDealerEd. I'll see you next time. Thanks very much for joining me. Goodbye.